Hey everyone, Leanne here from Kingdom Bloggers. So today I want to talk a little bit about RPM and CPM for those who are working with ad networks. This is one of the most common questions I get from anyone who has recently been accepted into Journey or SheMedia or MediaVine or some other ad revenue service. So I want to help you understand what those metrics are, RPM and CPM, and more importantly, what can you do to increase yours? So let's unpack that. Okay, so RPM and CPM, what are they? RPM is the revenue per 1,000 impressions of an ad or view. So how many times that ad gets seen by people on a particular blog post or whatever. CPM, on the other hand, is the cost per 1,000 ad impressions before any revenue sharing is taken out. So basically, CPM is how much the advertiser is willing to pay for that ad space. You know, like when we hear about Super Bowl commercials, people are paying millions of dollars, or companies are paying millions and millions of dollars for their one ad to be shown. That would be CPM. On the other hand, RPM is once that ad is shown on your website, how much are you going to make per 1,000 views of that ad being seen, minus, like, the CPM is the total amount that's being paid. But remember, if you're with SheMedia or MediaVine or Journey, whomever, that's how much the advertiser is paying to them. Then the SheMedia or ad revenue company is taking their cut from it and then paying you an amount. And it works the same with Google AdSense on YouTube videos as well. And so the RPM is how much you will actually be expected to make, the general amount that you can make for every 1,000 impressions of an ad. So that's what the two, CPM versus RPM, one is how much is being paid outright. The other is how much you're actually going to make. Okay, so how do you kind of quantify that? I want to start by saying this is not a black and white formula. This formula has so many variables. I'm going to give you an overview of those variables and sort of give you a general example. But this is where, when a lot of people ask, what is your RPM? Just because this person has an RPM, or what is the RPM on faith-based content? That's the question I get asked. What is the RPM I should expect for my Christian blog, say, over a food blog? Well, really, it's not about your niche per se. There are many other variables that go into it, although some niches do have a higher RPM simply because of the kinds of ads that are going to be shown. So how do ads work? So all the ads, when you visit websites, you see all the ads that pop up. Two people could visit the same blog post at the same time of day. Say you and your friend, you and your husband, you and some random person on the street, say open your phone and y'all both go to this one specific website blog post URL at the same time. You will probably most likely see different ads than that person, even on the same website, because ads are, so we hear about cookies and tracking and all of that, targeting. That's what it's for. So I don't want to, like, for me, if I do my, I go to a website, typically what I see in the ads that display on any given website have to do with gardening, my dogs, for a while, chickens, because I did have chickens. So it's based on my own Google history, Facebook search history. It tracks my habits, and that tracking helps them show me ads that are more likely to be of interest to me. Now, there are other ads that may pop in there that you have no interest in whatsoever. Like right now, we're in a political season. And so even though you've never kind of looked for political anything online, those still get put in because they're just pushing them out. But that's how it works. Your husband, on the other hand, on the same time, same going to the same place, if your husband fishes or hunts, then he's probably been online looking for hunting and fishing gear. So Academy and Dick's Sporting Goods and things like that, those are the kinds of ads that are going to populate for them. So when it comes to Christian content versus, say, food blogging, well, everybody searches for food, a lot of people. But as Christians, we don't just search Christian stuff. So, like I said, if I visit your Christian blog, I'm not necessarily going to see faith-based ads. I'm going to see ads that are based on my typical online history. Now, there are some people who are consistently looking up biblical stuff, and in that case, it would be. So, just to make you understand that the RPM for a faith-based niche website are not in and of themselves going to be less than the RPM of, say, a food website, a recipe website, or something like that. Now, let's take it a step further. So how do you, what comes into play? So I'm going to give you some very specific things to help you increase your RPM, but I want to show you two very vivid examples. So we're going to have two websites with both reaching 10K at the same time. Two Christian websites, two Bible study websites, whatever. Website A has 10,000 monthly sessions and 100 blog posts. B also has 10,000 sessions and 100 blog posts. Website A, of that 10,000 sessions, 4 posts are resulting in the majority of that. So of those 4 posts, each of those 4 gets an average of 1,500 sessions per month. So 15 times 4, that's 6,000. So of that 10,000 sessions, the majority of traffic is going to those 4 posts, which each is over 1,000 sessions per. Now let's go, and then the remaining 4,000, so that's 3 and 3, so 6,000 there. So you have 4,000 sessions left. Those are distributed randomly, evenly across the remaining 96 posts that you had. Because remember, we said we had 4. So you have 4 posts accounting for 6,000 sessions, and then you have 96 posts accounting for the remainder of that. Okay. Now let's go to site B, 10,000 sessions, 100 blog posts. On this site, there is no one single post that gets over 1,000 views monthly. Let's say that 10,000 sessions is just distributed evenly. Some posts get 50, a couple might get 800, but it's all over the place, and no single one gets over 1,000. Those two sites, their monthly payout, site A is going to earn substantially more because it's per 1,000 views. Remember that. So that kind of tells you getting your RPM higher. One of the strategies is getting more traffic to a single post or a few single posts. Having 10,000 across all of your 100, you'll still earn, but you will earn more when a few of those posts, at least, or a lot of those posts, are individually generating over 1,000 views. Okay, so understand that. So when you ask, I just had 10K, what's everybody else making? That's not a fair question, because you have to understand the amount of traffic versus how that traffic is dispersed among how many blog posts they have. Okay, so I hope this makes sense. This is the first level of understanding how RPM and ad revenue works. It's not just about getting 10,000, it's about getting strategically 10,000. Okay. All right. So now you understand just that level of it. So beyond that, there are some ways to help increase the RPM on your individual pages. Again, getting more traffic to them, and I will mention some steps for doing that. But let's just talk about the content by itself, increasing the earnings on the actual blog post, even if they don't quite yet reach 1,000. So here are some things you probably may never have heard of before, but they do work. The top media companies I've worked with MediaVine, SheMedia. I have not worked with Journey, but I've worked with some of the others. And these are pretty consistent strategies that they actually teach their customers to utilize. So number 1, site speed. We all hear about Core Web Vitals. We hear in the context of making Google happy. Honestly, at this point, I don't think anybody's trying to make Google happy. I think we've all just told Google to fly a kite. But site speed does matter in other areas. With your ads, the displaying of the ads and how long it takes for them to load and the content, it can significantly impair your earnings. So make sure that you have good site speed. You don't have to have green 100% on everything, but you do need to do the mitigating factors, such as using a good caching plugin, squishing your images, compressing them, and doing all the things. And once you put ads on your site, even if you were passing before, you could suddenly go down. Each ad company will give you a sort of script to put in certain places, like if you use WP Rocket, which is what I use, a certain little coding script to put in there, so it sort of delays execution for that time frame, so that does not impact the site speed. If you don't know what that is, just reach out to your ad revenue company and they will give that to you. Number 2, font size. Most older themes came with very tiny font that you're like looking like this. Well, mobile first indexing is important. Most people are viewing content from this, so therefore the font needs to be readable. I have large font, I have context, and I use readers, and I still struggle. So the recommended font for your content, not necessarily the headings, but the actual paragraph font, is recommended to be 18 to 20. That is the standard acceptable font size for mobile first viewing. The next one is line height, and this is probably one you've never heard of. And how you adjust this will depend on the theme that you're using. I use Astro Pro. It's very easy to go in and adjust it in the settings. That's why I love Astro Pro, because you can pretty much do anything. But based on an 18 font, so your line height, what that height is going to be based on what your font is. So with an 18 font, a 1.6 line height is recommended. And this is actually straight from MediaVine. And I will tell you, I had whatever mine was before. I think the standard is like 1.2 or something like that. It's just whatever. When I increased it to 1.6, the next month, my earnings at the same traffic amount I looked at several posts, my top ones. The traffic was the same, but my earnings actually went up, even though the CPM was the same. So just that fact of increasing the line height actually did have a positive effect on my earnings for that particular month. Okay, short paragraphs. Number 3, I've talked about this forever. If you, as English, we were taught in grade school and high school and everything, don't start a new paragraph until you start a new thought. That's not how it works in the online space. 1 to 2 sentences is a paragraph. Break 1 to 2. So if you have a whole paragraph, break it into 1 to 2 sentences, even if it's one sentence. Those shorter paragraphs are much easier to read on here. It also enables the ad company to put more ad impressions within the same blog post. So if you notice, when you visit a blog post, there's not just one ad. Every couple of paragraphs, then an ad, every couple of paragraphs. And there is a ad to content ratio that is recommended, and Google has input on that too. And the media companies, the ad revenue companies like MediaVine, they know what the recommended settings are, and they also know the level in which it's too much. Now, the individual, say me, can go in and tweak the settings because I want more ads, therefore annoying my readers. But I've chosen to go with the ad recommendations, which are kind of the acceptable number of ads per word count or per content. In other words, if you had a 2,000 word blog post, you're obviously going to see more ads than if you had a 500 word blog post. It should be relational to how much content. So when you break up those paragraphs, not only are you making it easier for the reader to read the content, you're also providing more opportunity for ad impressions. Okay, so the next one is longer content. Obviously, the more ad impressions on a post, the more earnings potential. So a 500 word blog post is only going to have probably 2 ads versus, say, a 2,000 word blog post. And I say blog post, images and other things play into that, but it's the length of the post and how much they have to scroll and where they can put those ads in. The more ad impressions will result in more earnings. So let's say this post only gets 500 views in this month. 500 people viewing this post, and you only have 2 ads showing because it's a shorter content, versus 500 people viewing this post where it's longer. There's more ad earnings potential there. This is why longer content, and when I say long, I don't mean write a book, but 1,000 to 1,500 words is kind of the standard. Don't go below that because of the amount of ad impressions that would be there. But longer form content. Now, here's the thing. With longer form content, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to add more words. Put some images that make sense for the content. Don't just add random images for the sake of it. Don't put a paragraph, image. Like that's annoying because then it would be paragraph, image, ad, and that's not good for the reader either. But I like to put them right before my heading. So if I had 4 headings in a post for H2s or H3s, I would put an image before each one. So if this is your words, when you add those images, it now makes them scroll more, therefore more opportunity for ad impressions. So using headings is also another way to do that, because typically the way the ad code inserts is based on certain things in the post, whether it's before an image, before a heading. So if you only have paragraph content, like in these long paragraphs, which are, the short ones, break it up with an H3 or something, right? Because then that gives the ad insert a little better gauge of where it should go. Okay, so we did headings and images. The next one is save the best for last. So when you open whatever the post is about, don't get right to it. You can sort of summarize, but don't give you ever notice, here's a good example of this. When you look up a recipe, you have to basically read a book before you actually get to the recipe card. Like me, I'm at the store. I'm like, I want to make this, and I need the supply list. I need the ingredients. You have to go through the whole thing to get to that. That is by intention, so that you scroll to the bottom and then you're seeing all of those ads along the way before I get the goods. If I got the recipe at the beginning of the post, I wouldn't scroll. Therefore, that person would earn no income from that post. Okay. Now you know why you have to scroll a book before you get your recipe card. But for your own content, whatever your content is, figure out a way. Now, some content is kind of harder to do that. If it's a list post, you got to have all 10. Save the best thing on the list for number 10. But whatever you're offering, put it at the end. And so how I do this, because my content is centered around Bible study, there is no spoiler alert. I mean, they can just go read the Bible if they want, but I offer printable study questions to go with whatever my devotional topic is about. And I tell them at the top, I said, be sure to scroll to stay to the end where you can download a free printable version of this devotional plus study question. So I tell them at the beginning, hey, go to the end. And the very last paragraph, somewhere down at the bottom, says, don't forget to download. And then there's a hyperlink for them to download the printable study question. When I started doing that, the RPM on my pages actually went up because people wanted those study questions. So that's an easy way to put the goods at the very end. And it doesn't have to be the last paragraph, but it should be towards the end. Whatever your CTA is, your call to action, whatever you're trying to get them to do, that should be sort of towards the end as well, because you want them to read the content before taking any action. Okay, the next one is your sidebar. Now, we know sidebars are only viewable for desktop users. Mobile readers do not see the sidebar. But as you will have traffic from people on a computer like this and that I'm making this video. Keep your sidebar minimal, because most ad companies do put a sidebar ad. And so if you have, your about me, and then you have, recent posts, and then you have a couple of banners to promote something, you actually going to be scrolling to get to where the ad is. I think I have a search box. I think I have a recent posts or recommended posts or something like that. I think I only have like 1 or 2 things in my sidebar. So even when they first come on, what we call above the fold, the first view, that ad is showing as soon as they open the page. You don't want them to have to scroll before that ad shows. Keep your sidebar just with the basics. Most of the stuff that you put there is actually only slowing down the page of loading, but most people are never going to interact with it. So keep it simple. The next one is video. We know video is where everything's going now. So in addition to the blog post that you create, consider starting a YouTube channel, create a video version of the topic. And I don't mean reading the blog post for the video, like just put a different spin on it and then embed that video. But put it maybe before your last heading or a few paragraphs before the end of the post. Again, that's content to make the content longer, but they can put ads over the video. It's a different type of ad that will kind of scroll here at the bottom of the video to increase earnings. And the video ad earnings are actually a little more than the general ad that shows up like just in between paragraphs. So adding video to your content can improve your RPM. And finally, it's funny that I see this because I really had never thought about this before, but y'all have heard me talk about page builders, Elementor and Divi and all these things to stay away from them. Page builders can actually impact your earnings because, okay, so Gutenberg is the default builder that is WordPress. It's built in, there's no added. It is the block editor. Now, with certain things, AstroPro, Cadence, you can also use Elementor to make it fancier, more creative. But on your actual blog posts themselves, you should be writing those directly into the WordPress Gutenberg editor. You should not be adding page builder elements to it from Elementor or any other kind of program you use. Because when you do that, guess what? You are adding more and more code. And somehow that CSS coding can actually cause issues with the script wrapper and some of the ads and how they display, because they'll have to read to know where the ad goes. So the way the ads work, they are coded like, and it's not stuff I understand, but to be placed, they don't go in and place it. Now you can, I don't recommend that, but the ads are designed to insert themselves in between certain blocks. Between, like, if you have a heading, for example, it's normally going to go right before the heading. If you have an image, it's coded to go right before or after the image. But when you do page builders, then you sort of bring in additional coding that the ads aren't quite understanding what I'm supposed to do here. It's almost like if I was giving you instructions and with the mindset that you're speaking English and you don't speak any other language, okay? And so I'm giving you instructions in English, and then one or two instructions I give you is in Japanese or French or some language you don't understand. You're going along, you're like, okay, I know what to do. And now I'm like, wait, what? So the ad insertion is reading the instructions that it understands, and then suddenly it's something in a foreign language, if you will. And so you just don't want that because it can impede the ability for those ads to display properly. So aside from page speed, which is what I've always told everyone, it could actually impact your earnings as well. So that is it. Like I said, I get a lot of questions about how can I improve my RPM and things like that. What does it mean? What's everyone else making? At the end of the day, no two sites are going to be equal unless literally you have the exact same content. And then even still, the cookie history of the people visiting your site is going to vary. But these are some things that you can do to increase the RPMs, increase the traffic to the post. So number one. So once you get into an ad company, like MediaVine is great. I've seen the journey dashboard, but I'm not quite familiar with it. I've had SheMedia as well. You should be able to see, okay, so it's going to show you well, number one, let me backtrack. Sorry, guys. When you first put ads on your site, give it up to 2 months. The ads, remember, they're following instructions based on how they're coded. It has to learn you. It's like when you hire a new person, say an assistant, they kind of have to learn, like if you were hiring a VA, they kind of learn your nuances in how you speak, what words you like and don't like, if they're going to do your copyright for you, right? They have to learn. The ads have to learn the habits of your site. So your first week, you're going to have like $1 RPM. Don't freak out. That's normal. Give it a good 60 days so that the ads can truly learn the habits of your site, learn the habits of your readers, the content, how people are interacting. Are they landing on the page and just leaving? That tells them the content's not good, things like that. But these are some things once you've gotten in there that you can do. Number one, you can go in and see of all your posts. So remember I mentioned the two, site A and site B before, both at 10K, both 100 posts, but had different levels of sessions based on the individual post. One had 4 that all got 1,500 apiece. The other had nothing over 500. Okay. But you can actually go in and see the CPM for the blog post. So you can see, here's my post for the month, how much traffic they got, how much earnings I made on it, and it'll show you the RPM. I would show you here, but we're prevented from actually showing that to the public for, what's that word? I would show you that, my screen, but we're actually prevented from showing that information for proprietary reasons for the company. But at the end of the month or anytime in the month, there's a place that'll show your top 10 posts, and you can expand it to go beyond top 10. It'll show how much traffic it got, and then it'll show the RPM, so how much the earnings were per 1,000. It'll show how much you actually earned. And then there's also a column for CPM that lets you know, hey, this is how much the advertiser's paying for this particular keyword, right? Whatever the topic of the post is. So 2 strategies here. Number 1, whatever your top posts are, the ones that are getting the most traffic, get more traffic to them, right? Because you want to reach that over 1,000 sessions. So if it's only getting 500, how can you get 500 more? Simple strategy number 1, your other top posts, put that more, the higher one as an internal link. If it makes sense, if it doesn't match the content, don't just put it in there for the sake of putting it in there, but check your internal linking. Make sure more of your content, even those posts that aren't getting as much traffic, maybe they're getting just a little bit, put that number 1 post as an internal link to them. Because if you have 10 posts over here, each getting, say, 300 or 400 visits a month, and that other post is a link in that, they're going to click that post and land on this post. So the RPM isn't from first visit. In other words, they Googled you, they found this post. It's from every visit, whether it's Pinterest, whether it's internal linking, whether it's email, it's all the traffic combined. So the easiest way to earn more money on a particular blog post is to simply get more traffic to it. Create more Pinterest pins. Get creative with your Pinterest pins. Don't put the same pin over and over. Get creative with the titles and things like that. Share it on Facebook, things like that. But more importantly, internal linking is one of the best strategies if your other content is already getting traffic. So that's strategy number 1 for increasing your earnings, is simply get more traffic so that you have some posts that are getting over 1,000. Strategy number 2, like I mentioned, you should be able to see the CPM for each of your posts. Go through and look for which posts have the highest CPM. That is the ones that this is how much the advertiser is willing to pay based on the keywords of this particular post, whatever the topic is. You may find that your top 10 traffic posts right now have a CPM that's a little bit lower. Maybe it's $6, $10, whatever. But you find that you have a couple of posts that only get 1 or 2 visits or maybe no traffic at all. And the CPM on those is like $20, right? It would behoove you to try to get more traffic to those, because 1,000 visits of a CPM 20 versus 1,000 visits to a CPM of $6, you do the math there. So going in and evaluating your content inside the dashboard, if you're able to see the CPM, make use of that and figure out how to. Now, don't clickbait people and don't use tacky strategies. If you need to make the content better, like I said, Pinterest is great, Facebook is great, other strategies, your email list, send it out to your email list again, whatever it takes. And this is where on any given month, when you do have content, like say seasonal content, say it's Christmas or Easter, and you have like this really good, a Bible reading planner that has a devotional with it, you should, of course, publish it, create a bunch of pins, schedule those out so they're constantly going out, refreshing in Pinterest, share it on your Facebook page, then share that on your personal page so your friends and family see it. Then make sure you send it out in an email, and then anywhere else that you are active, sharing it more times that month. So in that 30-day period, the chance of it reaching over 1,000 is increased. That is how you increase your earnings. And then, of course, all the things that I mentioned, the font size, the line spacing, paragraphs, all that's important for every single post. You should go through and start doing that. But just on the general, how do I increase the earnings, get more traffic to those blog posts, and then identify which content has the highest potential for increased earnings and focus on that. All right. I hope this all made sense. I hope this helps someone today in understanding how all of this ad revenue stuff works. If you have any questions, of course, drop them below or hop over to my Facebook group and ask over there. My goal is to help you learn how to really earn God-honoring income in this space and understand all this technical stuff so you can do it and not pull your hair out. Okay. All right, guys. Thanks so much. I'll see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.